welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. One of her advocacy long term weight loss while living a life you love. Oh, I love that. No other than Miss Lisa Franz.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Welcome, Miss Lisa, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yeah, so my name is Lisa. I am a nutrition coach and the owner and operator of Nutrition Coaching and Life, as you can see here on the screen if you're watching. It's my passion to help people not just live happier lives, but healthier lives in a body that they love. Because I, for quite a long time, was struggling in regards to feeling like I could either have a fun life or a body that I loved, but I have learned how to combine the both, and I want to teach everybody around the world how to do the same.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you. And today let's talk about does weight loss to have to be hard?
It
So
does
tell us.
not. The answer to this question is not. Of course, we need to acknowledge that if we want to see change and if we want to lose body fat, we need to change something. Because sometimes people want to just keep doing everything exactly the same way that they have been doing it and expect different results, and that does not work. And of course, also, if we want to lose weight, that means we need to eat less than what the body is burning. So we're going to be hungry from time to time, or we have to practice some form of restriction at some point or another. But it doesn't have to be as hard as the industry makes it out to be. And the reason that they're really pushing that kind of narrative is manifold. So the first one probably being that if you go on a really extreme weight loss journey, which of course feels hard, you're going to, yes, probably reach your goal faster, but almost always, actually 97% of the time, people regain the weight if they go about their weight loss in an unhealthy, unsustainable way. And even with nowadays, with weight loss drugs and so on, if we don't address the underlying issues and healthy habits such as sleep, stress management, drinking enough, movement, and so on, the weight loss is not going to stick. So that's really one big reason. Another reason why it often feels hard is that we don't include the people around us in why we're doing something. So, for example, you might choose to go on a weight loss journey, but you're not telling your husband or your wife about it. And you just think, oh, I'm just going to start eating less, or I want to be healthy. But then you complain when they bring home pizza or bring home some other form of takeaway because you don't feel supported, and they don't understand what's going on either because you haven't shared with them that you actually just want to feel lighter or you've been uncomfortable in your body. So we really need to include other people. And if the people around us are not supportive, then it's always a great idea to get accountability and support from elsewhere. So, for example, joining a group or getting some coaching. And that kind of support makes everything a lot easier as well because we feel like we're not in it alone. We feel like there's other people that have experienced the same struggle as we have, and they're also going to give us the right strategy because with all this confusing information out there, it feels even harder. Someone tells you you need to do keto and you need to be vegan at the same time, and you need to do intermittent fasting, and then you need to do blood glucose monitoring, and you should ideally work out 8 times a week, and all this crazy stuff where we feel overwhelmed and we don't know what to do anymore. So if we have guidance in a coach or just generally someone who knows what's going on, um, it's eliminating all these other options and you're just following the steps that are laid out in front of you. And of course you also have someone who answers your questions, which makes weight loss a lot easier. So all in all, to answer your question, Daniel, it doesn't have to be hard, but there are obvious hard routes, and that's why it often feels very, very difficult for people to lose weight.
It's not hard to lose weight, people, if you have the dedication to do it. For
That's
sure. How has the mainstream diet industry fundamentally misunderstood the problem of weight management, framing it as a simple math equation of calories in versus calories out?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Eating is so much more than just fuel, right? Like we eat for so many different reasons. We eat for cultural reasons, we eat for social reasons, and most importantly, also we eat for emotional reasons. Most of us, anyway. Sure, there are certain people like the bodybuilding crew and so on that really are used to seeing food simply as fuel, and they can eat the most plain chicken and rice for the rest of their life without ever needing anything different. But the majority of us are going to eat for other reasons also. Or let's say if we travel and we want to experience some different foods, or if it's a birthday party, we might want to have some cake and so on. And so it's not as simple as just saying, hey, eat this amount of calories and go away. You don't need to think about anything else. We need to look at, okay, when and why are we emotionally eating or stress eating, or sometimes people have, let's just say, sort of limiting beliefs that are even stemming from childhood. So if you've always seen your mom dieting and so on, then that's something that you carry with yourself in terms of beliefs into your adulthood, into your approach to weight loss as well. And that's going to make it, or that's going to affect um, how you think about calories and so on. So it's not as simple as here's a number, go away and do that. That's point number one. Point number two is that if we're only looking at calories and we're not looking at food quality, we're also going to be a lot hungrier potentially if we only eat processed foods or mostly processed foods, because your body doesn't have to do as much of the processing itself. And if the body does more of the processing, it keeps the stomach busier and so on, to make it a figurative speech, I guess. And then you don't feel as hungry. And hunger is a big point when we're talking about dieting or losing weight, because it drives us to eat more, even though maybe we should be sticking within a smaller calorie window. So we really do need to look at, okay, are we mostly, I'm not saying strictly, but mostly eating whole foods? Are we mostly eating foods that are not processed or minimally processed, such as vegetables and fruits, fish, meat, if you choose to include animal products, grains, some healthy starches, and so on. And maybe just 10-20% of the time, giving yourself a little bit of freedom for some bread, some, all the things that you yourself look at as a little bit more of a treat, so to speak. So that's a big component of it too. How much of what we eat is actually good quality? And then another component is, or why we can't just look at calories in, calories out, is that the macro distribution, so how much of those calories are proteins, carbs, and fats, is also really important for satiation, number one, because protein keeps us more satiated than carbs and fats. Protein also is less likely than to be stored as body fat than carbs and fats. So if we eat the same amount of calories from protein versus just from carbs and fats, you're going to be more successful at maintaining or losing weight than if it's from carbs and fats. So that's a big one. But also, if we're losing weight, we are actually talking about wanting to lose body fat and maintaining most or as much as possible of our lean body mass, our muscles. Even if you don't want to look very muscular, this should be of importance to you, because of course in the end what matters the most is the body fat percentage and not necessarily the number on the scale. We want to achieve a healthy body fat percentage. So what I'm trying to say with this is, if we only look at calories in, calories out, and we disregard the amount of protein that you're consuming, it is more likely, and this many studies have demonstrated this, but it is it's a lot more likely that we lose fat and muscle and not just fat than if we eat the right amount of protein, and of course ideally pairing that with some resistance training as well. So really important. Yes, the whole concept of calories in, calories out works in the sense that it is physics. If we eat less than what our body is burning, logically we're going to lose some weight. But we don't want to end up just as skinnier versions of ourselves or deflated versions of ourselves. In the end, most of us want to look more defined, more shaped, and healthy as well.
A healthier, indeed. A healthy body, a healthy mind, as they said.
Yes.
And what do you think? Willpower and restriction are not only unsustainable but often counterproductive for long term weight loss and health.
Sorry, could you repeat the question? What is unsustainable and counterproductive?
Yes, for long term weight loss and health.
Yeah, so some of these points I've already kind of alluded to. So if we go about our weight loss too restrictive, if we try to force ourselves into certain approaches without actually any backup. So nowadays, often we hear you have to do X. So, for example, women have to, or everybody has to intermittent fast. Everybody has to do high intensity interval training. And whenever I hear something like this, um, I would become really, really alert and listen twice and think about it three times because there is no such thing as a blanket statement. Sure, the majority of people would benefit from eating a good amount of fiber, vegetables, and fruits. And, you know, there are a few things that apply more or less across the board. But certain things really, really have to be individualized a lot. So, as I mentioned, the intermittent fasting, for example, actually many studies show that it works reasonably well in terms of health and in terms of calories restriction for men, but when women really don't do as well with that on average. There are women for whom that works, but on average, mostly because we have a little bit where we're more insulin sensitive, we have more fluctuating hormones, so most women do a little bit better with smaller portions more frequently throughout the day, whereas men often don't mind only eating twice or three times a day, but bigger portions. So we have to really approach it from an individualized perspective, and we cannot just say this is how everybody should eat, because if you try to force yourself into that, it is going to be unsustainable if that doesn't work for your body or maybe even hurts your body. Some other things where I would say anything that is really, really, really restricting. So again, like maybe saying, I'm not ever going to have any sugar ever anymore. I'm cutting out sugar completely. Asking yourself how realistic is that really? It might sound good in the moment, especially, you know, after Christmas or after New Year's, where you've had a lot of sugar and you just feel like, oh, I need quote unquote a detox. But you know, how realistic is that? If it's your wife's or your child's birthday party, are you really going to sit there and watch everybody eat cake? Probably not. And that's often where the issue starts, because then we start eating one slice of cake and we think, oh shit, tomorrow I'm going to have to go on my no sugar diet again. So I'm actually going to have 5 slices of cake today to make the most out of it. And then this whole yo-yo cycle starts over again, which is actually also terrible for our metabolism and our relationship to food, most importantly, as well. So I would just say, why don't we practice having small treats in moderation? Because that's really what society, or what we as people most often struggle with. We often, or I often hear, oh, I can't just have one cookie. I can't just have one slice of pizza. When I start, I feel like I need to have the whole package. And you might feel like that right now, the person that's saying that, but there is a way to practice that. It's not that one person is born in a way where they have learned to moderate that and another person will never ever learn that. It's often just habits. And so a way to practice that is not by avoiding it completely. A way to practice that would be to say, okay, I'm actually going to, let's just say your weakness is chocolate. Let's just say, in that case, I would say, let's try to plan for, you know, two pieces of chocolate with your afternoon tea or your morning coffee every single day. And at some point, it might actually even lose its appeal, its special, and you might not feel like it has that power over you. Because in my opinion, there's really nothing wrong with having even, you know, a glass of wine here and there or whatever it is. There is no good or bad food. Food is not moral. Food doesn't have a moral side. But if it takes over and it starts feeling like you don't have control anymore, that's an issue. That's what I want to work on with my clients.
Well, thank you for that empowering answer, Miss Lisa.
My pleasure.
And what will be your short term and long term goals?
For myself,
Yes, please. As well
oh,
as your
I like that question.
business.
I did not see that coming. So for myself, I mean, again, going into the new year, in the past, I used to set a lot of very specific goals with my previous mentor. I always went through almost like a goal setting practice once at the beginning of the year, and then we broke it down into, revising it every 3 months, and then revising it more on a smaller scale every month and every week even. And I'm still a big fan of that. So if you're listening to this and you are looking for some goal setting strategies, I do really recommend a practice like that, a regular practice, not just at the beginning of the year, but revising that more frequently, more regularly. And having like a weekly review is a really great way to do that, because you figure out what works well, what didn't work so well, what do you need to adjust. And that's often what a coach, including a nutrition coach or a fitness coach, can help you with as well. Because you might say, I want to lose 20 pounds, and then after a week, you're realizing the method you have started is really not working for you. So, what do you need to adjust? So, I guess to go back to the question, in the past, I'd set like very specific goals when it comes to client numbers, income that I'd want to have, maybe hitting a specific goal in the gym, and so on. But Danielle, to be honest, over the last couple of years, I have wanted to focus a little bit more on actually doing less. So for me, it might sound contrary to a lot of people's goals, probably at the beginning of the year, but I am trying to learn more and more to not just associate productivity with success for myself, and learn to appreciate a few more moments in the day where I can meditate, where I can just go for a walk without feeling like I need to be productive. And of course, I still want to serve my clients with the best possible service. So I will always continue to educate myself when it comes to new nutritional strategies, new coaching strategies, and so on. So that's probably another goal. But yeah, really just being more present, enjoying the now, and at the same time being the best possible me that I can be. So, best possible coach, best possible daughter, friend, and so on, and continuing to work on that on a daily basis. And I think those are both short and long term goals, because it gives me actionable steps on a day to day basis. And at the same time, I'm really going to work on that probably for the rest of my life, to be entirely honest.
Yes, good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success,
Thank you.
Miss Lisa. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Well, I hope nobody wants to be exactly like me, because everyone has a wonderful individuality that they should absolutely dive into. But if you're wanting to be healthier, fitter, eating better, and maybe also working towards, aligning the life that you're living with who you truly want to be, so stepping into the job that you love, and so on. Um, I would really advise starting within yourself. And for me personally, many years ago, probably about 8, 9 years ago, that just started with becoming consistent with practices like going for a daily walk that I kind of use as a meditation, journaling, listen to encouraging podcasts such as this one, and then not just listening and being passive about it, but really from everything that you're studying and learning and listening to internally. Um, Taking some actionable takeaways, basically. So for me, in that instant, because at that time when I started with all of this, I was actually working as a police officer, and I realized that I was truly very unhappy in the life that I was living. And so I gradually, continuously took steps to transition out of full-time employment and into what I'm really passionate about, nutrition and fitness. I gradually took steps to making my life location free, and so on. So I want to encourage the listener more than anything to think, number one, you deserve to live the life that you love. Don't just settle for mediocrity because you think it's expected. Number two, start learning from people that have already achieved what you want to achieve, and take small, actionable, sustainable steps towards that life that you're trying to create. And then number three, really just be incredibly consistent with whatever you're doing, even if the results don't show right away, or even if you sometimes might even feel like you're taking steps backwards, having setbacks, because that is all part of the journey. And we're only going to make progress if we're really staying consistent no matter what.
Yes, people, that's part of the journey, and thank you for that advice, Miss Lisa. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I was saying in the beginning, I think Atomic Habits is a wonderful book for anybody who is wanting to install some health habits or just any kind of like getting rid of certain habits. And this is a book by James Clear. Another book I will throw out there, and this is more of attitude kind of book, I guess, is called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And for me, it's really just the message is doing less, doing it better, and stripping out all the unnecessary, because so much of what is causing the friction in our lives and what is making change harder is simply distractions. It's doing a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be done at all, or taking longer at doing stuff that doesn't need to be done. And so essentialism really lets us hone in into like what is it that we truly need to do, and how do we get rid of the rest that's not essential.
Yes, and thank you for that recommended books, Miss Lisa. And if a reader could only implement one core of what we are talking about, or the listeners that are listening right now, what is the entire biggest ripple effect on their journey?
Ooh, only one thing. That's a really tricky one. I would say a daily practice where you check in with yourself. I'm not going to call it meditation. I'm not going to call it journaling because it's different for everybody. But I believe we have so many distractions in our modern day to day life where it's so easy to just scroll, to just grab your phone first thing in the morning or last thing at night. And we are so distracted, so reactive, really. And so, if you even just said 3 minutes a day or a minute a day, where you're really thinking about, okay, what do I want? What do I want out of this day? What would I like this day to look like? How can I show up better? What did I not do so well yesterday? And that can pertain to nutrition, that can pertain to fitness, can pertain to anything else. I think by having that continuous and consistent check in with yourself, you would really make big strides towards becoming a better version of yourself.
A better version for sure. And Miss Lisa, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 our fourth season, and science 101 sex 101 second season, and my baby podcast mental health 101, Law 101, Bible verses 101, Entrepreneurship 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Lisa, ultimately, what becomes possible in terms of energy, confidence, and freedom when someone discovers that weight loss doesn't have to be hard?
Oh, what becomes possible? Well, exactly, my mission becomes possible, and that is living a life that you love in a body that you love, and feeling good in your body, performing as best as you can, because your brain is functioning better, you're feeling better, and everything else.
Yes, indeed. People, let's do weight loss if you need to. Through the magic power of Miss Lisa. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Of course. And Daniel, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And yes, my business name is Nutrition Coaching and Life, and so you can find me under Nutrition Coaching and Life on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and my podcast is called the Nutrition and Life Podcast. So if you are listening to this and you're enjoying our conversation, please feel free to drop me a line. I always love finding out how people have found me.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Lisa Franz, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering episodes of the podcast itself, more and more empowering nutrition coaching will rise. So, Miss Lisa, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Monica people, see you soon.